Well, today I am going to be sewing a diaper cover with this teal wool flannel, and I have made a couple diaper covers with this before. I'm trying to find where I need to cut it or start cutting. I always try to start in the same spot. And I got quite a bit of this. It looks like 2 yards at least. The other color that I'm going to be cutting out today is this gold. It's like a gold weave. So it's got kind of like a little design in it. Texture. That's the word I'm looking for. So I'm going to cut this one first, and I actually have the inside layer cut out already right here, so I'm going to just use that as my template. So let me get this sorted out. There's a lot of fabric to deal with. I want to make sure I have like a smooth section so I can cut it, because I have other stuff on my table, so it's like trying to get a little spot. Okay, so here's this is a size 3, and these patterns I just developed because I had 4 children and they were in all different sizes, so it's quite easy to actually develop these patterns, because even if I didn't have a child in the size, like, which I think I had all the sizes actually, so it wasn't that difficult to make a bigger size. And I essentially designed them so that they were the first 2, the 1 and 2 were for non-walking babies, and then so basically up to about 9 months, and my kids were very kind of like tiny and thin, and so when they got to be walking age, then I designed the 3 and 4 to fit walking babies, so toddlers. And they worked pretty good. And I did some testing with it with my customers, and it seemed like they worked for them. However, when I first designed my products, they had like a tab, which I can grab right here. They had this kind of a tab that would fasten on the sides, and that would give a little bit more space. So when I say that I can do this, the front fastening, it does open up the leg a little bit more, because then you have a snap here and here, and then you get a little bit of space in between, which helps you to have a little bit more extra space for your child's legs. So I've got that one cut, and I'm gonna just use the same template. I've got to cut another one of the natural wool in the size 3. I had one cut already, so, and as you can see, I don't have as much of this gold weave as I do the teal, and I still have a lot of the wool flannel left actually, so I have multiple colors. I've got yellow, which is a really nice yellow for summer, and no one has bought that yet, so it's interesting. I bought it because I was like, well, I've never really had an actual yellow. I mean, this is like a gold color, but I don't think I've ever had like a pure like yellow, so I figured I'd try that, but no one seems to like that. So it's weird. When I was raising my babies, Like yellow was the neutral color. So if you didn't know what you were having, it was either yellow or green, pretty much. So, but it's a really nice yellow. Actually, I can grab it. I've got it right here. And it's, you can see it in different lights then. So, and I've got 2 yards of that, so I mean, be the first one. So I'll just get this cut out. And just for filming, I have my cutting mat kind of oddly like in an odd position. So, and I'm realizing my arms are so short, it's hard to actually cut in this position. There. No. There we go. Okay. So those are both done. Oh, actually, I do need to cut. Yes. To cut this one. Now, I'll just pull out my pattern for the, oh, actually, no, I'm not gonna pull out my pattern. I'll use the teal as a pattern. That way, everything will align. So, I have a lot of this because obviously this is a staple for all of my wool flannel diaper covers. They all have this inside. So try to have to balance all that so it doesn't fall off my cutting table. I actually have like a roll of wool. The wool jersey is on the other end of my cutting table, and I need to do something with that. It's too big to fit into like a bin, and I always like to protect my wool. Oh, actually that's not going to be very good. I'll do it like this. Let me do it like this. I have to align it so that you can still see it the way that my, here we go. Smooth it out. The way that everything's set up to film, it's like really difficult. Okay, so got this situated there. I normally don't film the cutting process, which I'm realizing now, like some of this is very difficult to do. When I'm trying to film and cut at the same time. So I need a little bit of work in this setup. Thankfully the wool flannel kind of sticks to itself, so it's not sliding all over the place. And I'm trying to keep my head out of the shot so I'm not blocking everything. Okay, got that done. Okay, so now it's time to head over to the sewing machine. Okay, so it's funny, I mentioned this at the front snaps, and this order actually asked for front snaps, so I'm in the middle of cutting them out, and this is the medium and large size, or the basically the 3 and the 4 size. So this is how I do that. I just have my little pattern pieces and then go around with my rotary cutter. So I have to have one each of the cream or the undyed. This is undyed. So one each of the undyed, and then the one or to each of the undyed and to each of the color. So those ones are done, and so now I just need to get the green ones, and I think I have a good spot right here where I can squeak out some. Luckily we don't have to have very much fabric to do these. Okay, and then I need one more. Let's see. Do it like this. And with these, I don't like, some fabrics require like things to be like a certain direction, but these specific fabrics, it doesn't really matter. They're kind of the same on both sides and everything works. I mean, there is a side, so I have arrows on my little things so that I can see how they go on, you know. This will be, but I'm trying to think, like, how do I normally put them on actually like this, so that this is the side, this is the front, so they'd be like that, and then like this. Then I go over to the sewing machine and I sew these pieces first, and then I'll show you how I end up putting the pieces into the diaper covered. Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be sewing. I'm going to show you. I'm going to be sewing 2 diaper covers that I just cut out, and they're the gold weave, and this, oh, I forget what it's called, but I said it in the previous part. It's like a teal color. It's got like all this woven. They're both wool flannel, obviously 100%, but I also have these tabs, and so I don't think I've actually done a tutorial with the tabs, so I'm excited because I can do that today. And you just saw me cut them out, so now I'm going to get started with my sewing machine, and you can just join me for that. Okay, so I'm gonna turn on my machine. I've got my 2 pieces, well, 4 pieces. I've got the undyed flannel on one side and the color choice on the other. And so what I usually do is I start, so the way that these are made, it's like there's a wider part here and then more narrow. So I usually put the snap on this side and I have it attached up here. Okay, so I'll either start like this and sew right here and around this way, or I flip it and I start sewing here and go around that way. So I think I'll just go this way. I've got my ivory colored thread in, and it's set to 2.5 and straight stitch. So I'm just going to start by doing a little bit of a back stitch, and I'm sewing right along the edge, maybe 1/4 inch or so, seam allowance. So straight to that corner there, and then I turn it, and then this is kind of curved, just because I used to be like straight here, and I felt like, well, we can leave some room and kind of shave off some of that fabric so to allow like movement for the baby. And I did that a long time ago, and it seemed to work fine for my kids, so that's how I do it. I did, however, so there's going to be a snap here and a snap down here. I did want to leave this part because I did have a diaper cover that was basically keeping this off. It was just like a straight kind of a tab there, but having this extra piece for like the hip area and a snap, helps to hold the diaper cover up in this, on this side, not just in the middle. If you only have it in the middle, what's going to happen is the diaper cover is going to sag in the leg area, and you don't want that to happen, because then you might get leaks, or like basically the diaper getting exposed to the clothing or whatever. So then here, sorry, I wasn't talking about that. So I sewed that little section, and then I turned that little corner. Now this is where my fingernails actually do come in handy for holding those little tiny areas, or you can use like a, I mean, I have one of these things, like you can hold it like this, you know, that can help. So then this one, I'm gonna actually flip it. Let me see, I gotta make sure I'm doing this the right way. Nope, so here we go, we gotta flip this like this, because you want them to be opposite of each other. So make sure that you're, you know, if you do want to do something similar, you got to make sure that your tabs are going to be correct. So I just follow right along the edge. Leave my needle down and turn that corner. Sew to the straight edge, backstitch a little bit, and then I'm gonna grab my little trusty nippers, clip that, and then I'm gonna take my little scissors and I'm gonna clip the corner. Okay, so get that out. And clip the corner. And if you have a lot of bulk, then you want to kind of like trim it down, because this area, like, you really don't want to have bulk here, because it's gonna bulk up the diaper cover. It's gonna keep it from being super trim, which you want. You definitely want as trim as possible diaper cover. And when it's flannel, it's a little bit thicker. Of course, it's going to be better for preventing leaks when it's a little bit thicker fabric like this. It's more kind of like tightly woven, and not as processed as the like wool jersey is. At least the New Zealand wool jersey that I buy is very processed, I would say, to make it smooth, and it's kind of made so that you can make clothing with it. So you get it all like this, and then you would top stitch. But I'm going to do all of these first and then top stitch in the appropriate color. So I'm trying to look up at my thread colors, and I do see one that's going to match really well. I don't remember what color I used the first time I made one of these, but I have since bought a really nice teal, like a darker teal color. And if you'll notice, I'm not sure if the light picks it up, this fabric actually has like a really, like a lighter, like almost like aqua color, and then it also has like a brown color in it along with that teal. But I think that this teal, yeah, that's a beautiful color for that, so I'll use that one. And then for the gold, I also recently picked up this color, so I think that will be really perfect for that gold. So I'm gonna get these ones matched up. So basically it goes like this. I've got the wider part on the bottom. Let's see here, we got wider, and they're the same on both sides, so that part at least doesn't matter too much. If you have, let's see, wider, if you have a fabric that is only the same, like there's an outer and an inner, then you have to really make sure that putting them together the right way. All right, so I'm going to start on this side. Go straight down, leave the needle down, turn that corner, and then it kind of like I slow down so that I can follow that little curvy line there. Okay, and then this one. See, then you when you line them up like this, you know that you got them the right way. We'll start at on this side. Or you can flip it and go the other way so that they're kind of like sewn the same way. Let's see. When you have these woven fabrics that sometimes they stretch a little bit more on one side rather than the other. So you have to really make sure that you're keeping everything aligned when you're sewing. Backstitch. I just backstitch a couple of times so that none of the threads come out. And I'll snip that, this, and then we get our corners. And I'm going to cut this down a little bit so that, like I said, so it stays more trim. Just kind of looking over everything just to see, like, yeah, are there any places I need to trim or not, and then can turn it right side out. It does take a little bit longer to do these because I have all of this like kind of fiddly stuff, and then changing out the threads so that I can do the top stitching. It just takes a little bit longer. I technically should be charging more for these, or this option, but it's so rare that I actually do this option, and I'm just like, well, you know, I try to offer customers a good deal, you know, and if somebody wants extra snaps or this different type of closure, I just throw it in and do it for free because it doesn't really take too much longer. Yes, it takes a little bit more fabric, and yeah, it involves, you know, like I said, switching out the thread. It's a few minutes longer in sewing, but to me, not a big deal. So this is the Hobby Lobby thread. It's called Sewology, and it to me, it's very comparable to the Gutermann. That's a brand new thread. The thing that I don't like about it is that it's really hard to get it back into, like, so when you're done, I like to always go back through and kind of put it into there, but it's a little bit harder. It takes a moment of concentration on my part to get that in there, where the Gutermann has like a little, it's easier. It's got kind of like little teeth that grab the thread to hold it securely. The other thing that my nails come in handy for is I put them behind the needle as I'm threading it so that I can see. So I just hold my nail there like this. It does have like a little white area back here, but it just seems so much better to like put it through, and I can just see that more easily, see the thread. As I'm getting older, and then I'm also going to put it on 4 stitch length. But yeah, as I'm getting older, my eyes are definitely, okay, it didn't want to grab too well, so I'm going to move it forward. But my eyes are definitely getting a lot worse. I'm going to, at some point, when I think about it, start doing some eye exercises to improve my vision. Which I hope will work. I've heard about these eye exercises, and I just reminding myself to do them when I have a chance. That's the biggest problem. So then I just leave it attached. If you'll notice, the last time I did that too, and I've got the threads. I'm just gonna cut them just so they're not in my way. And then I right away line up the other one, pull it out a little bit, line up the other one. And then that way I have something to pull on to help me get that started too. Just a little tip. Sometimes people actually sew a piece of fabric, like junk fabric, just so that they can do that to get something started if it's hard for you to catch the fabric. And you notice, so also I sewed that and then I kind of lifted and turned so that I'm top stitching smoothly there. And I'll do the same thing here. I'll just lift it and turn it. And top stitching right along the edge. Alright, so now I have to switch again the thread color. I don't know why I pulled that out. Cut these so that they're all done. And you can't even really see the top stitching. It's pretty well hidden, which is good. That's how it should be. Unless you want to use like contrasting thread and you want your top stitching to show. And like I've said in other videos, you can do it like a decorative stitch if you so desire. So I'm going to change this thread out for the teal now. Same thing, same kind of thread. And oh, that one came off really easily, so that was nice. But sometimes they've got it wrapped a few times, but it's, I mean, you can't beat it. It's 99 cents at Hobby Lobby, so pretty good deal. And this one threaded. I'm obsessive about saving thread and making it last as long as possible because I hate having to go and buy thread. I don't know why I hate buying thread, but I don't want to spend the money on it. It's crazy. It goes back to, again, like I've said this in previous videos too, like when I first started making diaper covers and stuff, sewing for my kids, we did not have very much money. We were very limited, and so I had to use like fabrics that I already had, thread that I already had, you know, and when I ran out of something, going to the store to buy more, it just didn't, like, you know, I didn't want to have to do that. I didn't want to have to spend any money that I didn't have to spend, so I was very, extremely frugal with my money. Well, it was my husband's money, really. Well, we were married, so, you know, but I won't get into that. That was a different kind of era, a different kind of relationship, and no longer in that relationship, so you know, it's a whole story. But yeah, back to sewing. We are finishing this top stitching, and yeah, sometimes you do have to stop and lift your pressure foot so that you can get around a corner, and that is done. So I'm done with those 2 sets of tabs for my diaper covers. I'm gonna just cut these extra threads just so they don't end up poking out and being seen. And let's see, get this set up. So that's the second set. Now, remembering to put them in as I'm sewing, that's a whole other story, which I don't sew these tabs on very often. So it's kind of like I have to keep them visible to remind myself to do that. And then I'm putting on my ivory thread, which I sew the entire inside of the diaper cover with. Again, it's another one of these things like where it's a lot cheaper to buy thread in bulk like this, like on these cones, So it's another one of those things, saving money, but doesn't really save a lot of money. It's just, pet peeve. All right, so see how this is the same color. It's the same on both sides. Both of them are. So this is the undyed wool flannel. This is the woven color. And I just get it all lined up. I start about an inch on the front side. The back side is a lot wider than the front. This is size 3. And I'm going to reduce my stitch length to a 2.5. We keep it at a straight stitch, and then I'm going to start by back stitching a little bit, just a couple of threads. I go to the edge, and again, this is just one of my things. Like, I am again trying to make the diaper cover more trim. So I sew again. It's like a 1/4 of an inch from the edge. If you need to sew further from the edge and give yourself a little bit more space, go for it. This is just how I do it. And I sew, what would this be? I think it's about 3 inches. Yeah, 3 inches. So I sew about 3 inches down. This is on a size 3. And I grab my clear elastic. I already did that. It's just like instinctive. Set it to a zigzag stitch. And then again, my nails come in handy. I just take my nails and like tuck that underneath the presser foot, and then I sew a little bit and then back to catch that elastic, and then I can tug on it a little bit, and I just go for it and sew the entire leg area. And you can add as much or as little elastic as you want. You can pull however hard you want to pull on it, depending on if your baby has very chubby legs, you may want to have very gentle elastic, very soft, so that it can fit around their legs. If your baby has really skinny legs, then pull hard and put a lot of elastic in there. I just kind of go in the middle. I kind of pull a little bit, but not to the extreme. Pull a little bit, and I just go again until it's about, maybe about 3 inches or so from the top. And then I'm gonna back stitch. And then I switch to a straight stitch, and I just snip. This elastic is very easy to cut, so very nice. And then I'm on the straight stitch again, and just go right along the edge to the corner. Needle down, lift my presser foot, and go around that corner, and just go again another inch or so, and back to a zigzag stitch. Oh shoot! Again, see? And then I look over here, I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot my tabs. And so I realized it right after I forgot them. So I'm not going to go to a zigzag stitch. I'll go back to straight stitch, and I'm going to cut my threads, and I'm going to cut this stitch out that I just made. So when you look at these, this isn't the right way. They're about right there. So you have to start them, so that you have enough room to turn the corner. So I'm gonna take this stitch out. Oh, don't wanna see. This is why it's so good that I don't edit these videos. I just leave everything in, because I've been sewing for most of my life, but I still make lots of mistakes. So I get distracted. You know how it goes, you get distracted when you're sewing. You're thinking about stuff, or talking to somebody, or talking to a camera, and you just totally do something that you're not supposed to do, and yeah, that's how it goes. So you just rip that out and start over. Snip these threads. And then I'm just gonna, okay, so I gotta make sure I get all the little loose threads so that they don't end up showing anywhere. And grab, let's see, it's right sides together, so remember that. I mean, if you're using all the same fabric, then it doesn't matter. But basically, you start your tab right after you get done with the leg elastic. So I'm gonna line this up and make sure it's smoothed out. I took out a little bit extra so that it could fit in there well. Then I'm gonna go back to the end of my elastic here. So right here the elastic ends, and then right here is where my tab begins. So I've set it back to a straight stitch already, and I'm just going to back stitch just to make sure that's secure. And then I'm gonna just make sure that I'm grabbing this too so that it stays in there without a hole. I don't want a hole. Okay. And so there it is. We've got 4 layers of wool right there. So what I'm gonna do is trim all of this down when I'm done sewing. I'm gonna trim everything down so that, again, it lays nicely. That's the inside. Once we turn it, we're gonna see this. Cool, huh? So I'm gonna go back up here with my wrong sides out. Well, there aren't wrong sides, but you know what I mean. And I'm gonna start just at where I stopped, which was, I was ready to do the elastic. So I'm gonna make sure that my tab is kind of tucked down in so it doesn't get in the way. Switch to a zigzag. Tuck my elastic in here. And I don't know how, you know, it's not like I'm not zoomed in so that you can see. But in fact, this angle for the camera may not be the greatest, by the way. Sorry if that's the case. I'm trying to find the best way to do this, actually, this video, because it's a little challenging having like the camera angle correct and being able to see what I'm doing, not having my hands in the way, not having my head get in the way. It's just like a pain in the butt. Okay, so I'm coming up on like there's about like maybe 1.5 inches left, and I want to make sure I leave a little bit of room for my sewing, my stitch here. So, you know, sew a little bit more and then back stitch and then snip my elastic, go back to straight, and then see how this one kind of just gets pulled a little bit and it ends up, you know, stretching. So you just have to keep an eye out for that, making sure that you're getting both layers of fabric when you have things like that happen. So I have to sort of like feel like, well, where's my end of my unguide? Oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. Okay, you guys. You're seeing it all. This is what happens, especially, I mean, I cannot talk and do anything. Like, not even drive. I cannot talk and drive. I would drive like way out of the way if I'm doing that. So just you know, bear with me. Bear with me. I'm just taking out these couple of stitches. And then yep. And for some reason, this was like way off to the side, and I thought I was done with these. I only did one, but I was like messed up in my head. So here we go. We will tuck this in. in the right spot. And it would help too, probably, if I did use like clips or pins. And honestly, when I'm doing these, I probably should, just so that I don't make this mistake. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna backstitch a little bit just to make sure that I'm not gonna have a hole, like I said before. You want to make sure that you're going through all 4 layers of fabric. And then down here, gotta align everything, and I'm gonna go, I'm just gonna backstitch that too. I'm gonna go a couple of stitches and then start my elastic. Phew! At least I got that one. I mean, at least I caught it halfway through. It is a challenge. Always a challenge doing these. When every diaper cover, in the beginning, every diaper cover had these. I didn't even offer like the side snaps at all. But then I realized, like, oh, zigzag. Sorry. Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah, once I realized like people really want the trimmer, the better kind of option, then I started offering the side snaps, and I mean, I still used the front snapping for my kids, but you know, gotta make people happy, give them what they want. I do that in some cases, but in others, like I'm not gonna offer like, you know, plastic diaper covers. I'm just not gonna do that. I have to be true to myself as well and stick with like the natural fabrics, because I just feel like it's important, you know. I mean, I of course I am saying that, and I'm using like this like basically plastic elastic, but that has a purpose. If there was like a cotton that didn't absorb moisture, I'd use that, or something else, you know. If they made wool elastic, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. Okay, so again, the same thing happened here, by the way. Just that's why I've got a little bit extra more fabric over there underneath. See, it goes like this. It's because it's stretched. This top fabric stretched a lot, and I think that if I did what am I trying to say? Oh, if I sewed it the other way, so if I started sewing this way, it may not happen so much. I mean, you know, like it still can stretch a little bit, but we'll try it with the second one. We'll actually do a little experiment and see if that stretches as much. Although I think that that's a little bit tighter weave, that fabric. So I'm doing the front elastic now. And again, this is about 3 inches most of the time. I think I try to leave, you know, about 3 inches. I eyeball it though, so pulling that elastic, and then I just kind of like compare, and I stop it wherever I started the other side, just to make sure it's like even. And then we can clip that elastic and get my presser foot up, clip these, and then clip our corners. And I'm gonna, again, trim down this excess fabric here. And with these, you end up with some bulk. So this is where the tabs are. So I definitely clip that down a little bit so that it doesn't have a lot of bulk on those sides. Clip this one down too. So that looks good. And then I can turn it right side out. And I'll do the top stitching on both of these at the same time again. I'm gonna sew the inside stuff first. So I stick my thumb into the opening that I left. If you didn't notice, this is where I started sewing. This is where I ended the front elastic. So it leaves this tiny little opening right here that I can stick my thumb into and then go all the way to one corner. And it's fun with the tabs because you can actually just grab a tab in there and pull that up through and then pull it out. There's my first tab. It's a really small opening, and sometimes it takes a bit of finagling to get that out of that little hole. Like I always say, it's kind of like giving birth. I know. I'm weird this way, but when I was in doula school, I remember the teacher had like this little doll that somebody had knit that could come out of the womb. So that's always what I think of. I'm so sorry, but that is, I'm just being honest here. So there's a little thread from before. I'm gonna snip that off from having to start and stop all the, you know, the stitches in those corners. All right, and then get these front corners out. And then I'm gonna start our other diaper cover. So yeah, this is definitely, I'm going to, this time, I'm gonna put my tabs in and get them clipped in there. Okay, so I'm gonna set this aside, pull this one over and show you. So this is a size 3 as well. And I'm just realizing I don't have my microphone on. So I don't know, I'm hoping that this has been, I'm hoping that you can catch my voice in this. So the size 3 front is quite a bit narrower than the back. So that's where you'll see like the difference. So I'm gonna do right sides together and just tuck these in here. Leave a little bit of space for the seam. Flip that other fabric over. Gonna align that a little bit better. And then I've got clips right here handy. So I'm just gonna do a clip. And then I go to the other side. I'm gonna do the right sides together. This at least will make it so that I don't forget again. Cannot deal with that. I'd be so mad at myself if I did that, but this will ensure that I won't forget. Okay. Now, like I said, this time I'm going to start. I'm gonna wait. Which way did I sew the other one? No, I want this on the bottom, right? Yeah. So this is the experiment that we're doing. We're gonna start with the natural undyed on the top. I mean, but if you'll see, like, if you can see my fingers like that, it stretches as well. So I don't really know if that's going to solve the issue, but I'm at 2.5 stitch length straight stitch. I'm gonna back stitch a couple and go to the edge, lift my presser foot and go around that corner, and then sew approximately 3 inches. It's pretty much where it starts to curve inward that I start the leg elastic. So I'll put it on my zigzag and grab my elastic And then you'll see me do the exact same thing, except this time I won't forget my tabs. And I just kind of like pull the fabric just to make sure I can see both layers, so I make sure I'm like grabbing both layers as I'm sewing. And you want to make sure that you're sewing right over the clear elastic so that it's at least catching on one side. You don't want to do like a whole bunch of holes in the elastic because it will wear out faster, but you do want to at least grab like one side, one edge of the elastic so it stays in place. Okay, back stitch a little bit, clip that, and then we're at the tab, so I'm gonna go back to straight stitch, and I'm gonna take this clip off. It is handy, I must admit. Back in the day, I did not have sewing clips, I just had pins. I mean, it was 1997, I think, 96, 97-ish, when I started sewing cloth diapers. But of course, I was sewing other things. I was sewing all of my maternity clothes and stuff. So I'm leaving the needle down and then turning that corner. And then I'm gonna just kind of tuck that tab in so that I don't catch it. That's the worst thing. Second to worst thing, maybe. The worst thing is forgetting to put your tab in. As evidenced by me doing that twice in one video. Tuck my elastic in. Do the back stitch just to hold it in place. And I'm gonna make sure that that tab's really out of the way. There. And sewing diaper covers really is pretty forgiving because it does have elastic, because it's not this like particular shape. It's not like a square, you know? It's got curves. And it's okay, you know, if you mess something up, it's okay. Of course, I try not to because I'm sewing a product. I'm trying to be very professional in my sewing, so try to do everything the same. And I'm gonna actually move this diaper cover, or this tab a little bit further down so that I have enough space to do that actual stitch there. And you know what? I'm noticing the fabric on the bottom is not really stretching. So maybe this is the answer to that. At least with this fabric, it seems to be working much better. Okay, got through that, and now I'll do my leg elastic, second leg here. Hope you guys enjoy these videos. It's oh, forgot my zigzag stitch. But I do love sewing, and anybody else who loves sewing, like, just let me know, like, if that's the content that you like. I am definitely planning some more sewing videos for other things, not just diaper covers or diapers. I have a bunch of things that I want to make for myself, and I have all these vintage patterns, and I'm really excited about sewing them, but for some reason I only sew For other people, it's crazy. I need to start sewing for myself more. I do, I'll like do my alterations sometimes for myself, but it's usually the last thing I think of, sewing for myself. You know, it's kind of like I want to do everything else first. Let's see. So this part, it did kind of stretch on that part. And this is the salvage of this fabric here. So I'm going to scoot it up a little bit so it doesn't really show so much. So this is the front of the diaper cover. So this is where I'm going to sew like about 3 inches from the edge. And that looks good. I don't pull a ruler out and I don't mark anything, which I could, but I just feel like it just takes too much time. It's like, just get it done. But it will definitely help you if you do that. Then I'm doing this, that last piece of elastic on the front. And then I just pull the other side to the front, pull the sides together so that I can see where I need to stop. But again, you can mark it and it will work just as well. Okay, snipping that elastic, and then I'm gonna snip my threads and then snip my corners, and then we can get to the top stitching. I'm also gonna cut off this excess fabric in the front here with that salvage edge. So okay. And then, well, yeah, it does look like there's a little bit of stretching in the fabric on that one corner. Cut all that excess off because it really is like a lot more bulky. It's 4 layers of wool flannel, you know, pretty bulky. Okay, that looks good. All right, get rid of this stuff and turn this one right side out. And I'm going to stop the video there, and I'll come back when I have everything rethreaded with my thread colors, with my first thread color. All right, so I went ahead and I got my teal thread set up, and I've got it on a straight stitch and a 4 stitch length on my machine. So I'm going to, this is a thicker fabric, so what I do is I only top stitch where there's no elastic, so just the corners. So I start with a little bit of a back stitch. I make sure that, so this is the side where I have the little space where I turned the diaper cover right side out. And then I'm just sewing right along the edge, just sewing that corner of the front. I just make sure that everything's lined up before I start to sew. And you do have to kind of, because it's thicker on the corners, you have to make sure that you give it a little bit. You don't just like run in there sewing with your like full speed ahead, because you're going to get a lot of stitches in a really small space, and you have to kind of ease it in so that it starts to move because it's so thick. Okay, and then I find where I ended my elastic, front waist elastic, and then I'll do a little back stitch and then straighten everything out, and I go to the corner, leave the needle down, I'm gonna go one more stitch, leave the needle down, and then turn that corner. And I'm just always making sure everything is like smoothed out all the way to the edge. And then I give it a little bit of a push with my finger here so that it can get going over that hump that's in the corner. And then I just go to the elastic and back stitch. So the first two corners are done, and then I have to just do these corners, the back corners, with the where the tabs are. And remember, we started the tabs about it's maybe half an inch from the leg elastic, so I just start there, back stitch a little bit, and then when I'm going over the tabs, I kind of stretch everything and make sure I'm getting all of the layers. So I stretch it out, make sure that everything is smooth along here so that I'm not going off of the edge here. I don't want to go onto the tab, but I want everything smooth so that I'm catching all of those layers and securing them. It's just another way to secure everything together. So, and then I just go around that corner for just a little bit, stitch, and then clip my threads. And then find my other corner and do the same thing. So you want to really make sure that you're getting the corner. All right. Back stitch. Go to the corner. Turn it. And then again, I'm just straightening everything out and pulling it so that it gets all of the layers. And I don't go off the edge on the top or the bottom. And then back stitch. So that's all of the top stitching for this diaper cover. And then I can clip all my threads and attach all my tags. Now, on my diaper covers where I have these front fastening tabs, I do the tag up here. So I usually have square tags, but lately I've been using these rectangular ones that are not as good quality, and the tags that I really like are from Wonder Label. These ones are not. These ones were from a store on Etsy. I don't think I'm going to be buying these again. They're just much larger tags, and they don't look as great in my opinion, and it takes up so much space on the front here. I'm just not sure I really like that. And I usually add my size tag in there too. So we have a size 3 diaper cover. Let's see, there are my size 3 tags right here. And I mean, size 3, what am I saying? Size tags are kind of like I've ordered from a bunch of different companies, and they're pretty much always about the same. So I would normally do something like this, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you like that, or do you like this? Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I could put the tag there like that, but then I don't know. I don't want it getting caught on anything. Like when a baby's crawling around, I feel like it might be a little bit better to have it like here, and then stick that size tag in there like that. So I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I wasn't going to show the installation of the tags, but I guess I'll go ahead and do that. And then I'll just clip all my threads and off camera. I'm gonna reduce the stitch length to a 3 to sew on the size tag and the logo tag. catch. Yes. And then over here, see this. I really love this teal color. This is a really beautiful color thread. I like it. Where's my clippers? All right. Or nippers or snippers or whatever they call it. Oh, did it catch? Oh, it was the wrong thread. There we go. So yeah, so I'll cut all of these threads and then we're ready for snaps for this guy. And in the meantime, I've got to switch out my thread color again to sew this one the same way. So I will come back when I have all of this top stitch tags on and snaps, and I'll show you what these diaper covers ended up looking like. Okay, so I did get the snaps done on one of my diaper covers now. So it's got a different pattern. Sorry, I gotta get a sip of coffee. So it's got a different snap pattern placement, and obviously then, you know, the snaps on the tabs are different. And I also add a socket on the, usually on, I think it's always on the right side, so that you can kind of do a little crossover thing. I'll show you this later after I get these snaps done on the teal diaper cover. But I do have some matching snaps for the tab part, and then I'll just use the natural color. I think it's actually considered ivory from Cam Snaps. I believe it's ivory, the actual color. So I'm gonna get some studs out and caps, and then we're gonna do the studs first on the tabs. So I got my tab here. I sewed on my little logo tag and the size tag as I just showed. And let's see, I got the right die in. Put the little snap in there. And then I'm gonna put my cap in the middle on this tab. Push it through. Let's see, got a thread. Push it through, put it on the little placement thing. I don't know what that's called. I guess it's a die as well. And then push down, and there's our first snap on this one. So then I'll load up next one, teal, and the next snap will go right about here. Okay, and again, this is something that you can customize to however you want it. This is just how I do the snaps. Try to get into that little corner where that curve is, and that's the hip snap. Push down on that, and then I'll load up another one for the other side, the other tab. Get my cap in, coming through the back. And this is an older snap press. I'm not really sure the differences in the older and the newer, but I just have the older one, and it works beautifully. It's like 20 years old now. So this is the left side, this is the right side, and so let's see how I did it. Yes, I did it the same way on this cover, and then I put the little extra, this is the socket on this one, So what I want to do is look for a matching socket in this color. I think I do have one matching. Okay, so I did find a little teal. Let's see, we can switch out, but this one, this is for the sockets. Put my little teal socket in there, and let's do the. So this time I'm going to take my cap and put it through on the other side next to the stud. Poked it through, you can't really see because it's basically the same color, so get that in there, apply that. So then if you can see that, I got a little socket. And now I'm going to do all of the other sockets, and they're going to be in the ivory color. Oopsie. So I usually try to set up my snaps so that they're always in the same spot so that I can easily just grab what I need. So I'll start, oh wait, I'm starting wrong. Okay, I've got to find my center. For the tabs, I do the snaps differently. So I find my center, and then I put my cap right close to that center spot. So the center is right on the edge here. I'm going to put my cap as close as I can. And then I got to kind of smooth out that fabric and then push it through, and then set it on my little platform die thing and press down. Okay, so there's one. Now I'm going to place the other one right next to it. So I turn it around. I find my center again. And now I'm going to put this one exactly opposite of the first one that I did so that they're lined up and in the exact same position. Okay, poke it through, set it on my little die thing, and push down. Okay, and then at this point I can just start adding snaps next to. So like I'm gonna do 3, and then I'll do 3 hip snaps, and I'm gonna put these in about an inch apart or so. It's in an elasticized area, so it's going to kind of vary based on how much the elastic is stretched, which also gives a lot of variance to this style of snap. It's definitely not as what would you say, like it just allows for a little bit more flexibility in size. Yeah, that's what I would say. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3 on this side. I'll do 3 on the other side. And eyeballing. I mean, I usually try to go about an inch or so, but I also want to make sure that they're lined up straight across the front. And then one more up here. Try to align it. And I also, with this style, I put the snaps a little bit lower than I do with a side snap. With a side snapping, it's going to be right up next to the edge. With the front snapping, I've got the ability to move it a little bit lower, just because I want to make sure that when I close this tab, it's going to line up, the edges will be lined up like that. So then to sort out where I want my hip snap, I'm going to load up a snap or a socket on there. I'll grab a cap, and then I'm going to snap this to the last one. Yep. Snip it. And then I'm going to basically reach under and put my finger where that hip snap is going to be, the first one. And feels like it's going to be about here. So, and that actually gives me a little bit of leeway in the spacing, so I'm going to move it over here, and I can actually then allow a little bit even more flexibility. You just have to know where your snaps are going to line up, and then you can give yourself more flexibility or less, if you, depending on what you want. But I want this diaper cover to fit the longest possible, so that's why I moved it over, because as babies start to walk, they slim out, but also their legs tend to get more muscular as well. So sometimes babies end up with like a pretty thick thigh area based on that muscle. Okay, so I've got the 3 snaps here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is determine where I want that 4th one, because I need to have a 4th snap. So if I cross over, so here I'll show, these are all the top snaps. Okay, so 3 on one side, 3 on the other. If I want to use that tightest setting possible, I can take my snap from the right side and cross over. It normally goes here, but I cross over to the next one. Then that aligns this socket here. So I want to be able to snap the left side onto that socket, and I want to know where this hip snap is going to land. So I feel it with my finger. I'm going to unsnap that, and it's about there. Okay, it's a little higher than the other one, so I'm going to go a little further down, and I'm going to land it there. Did I already load it? Yep, I did. So I'm going to put it there, and then that will work for that hip snap if it needs to go that tight. And that's only if like your baby is a little smaller than like say a size 3 would be, then you get that extra flexibility in that area, so that you can make it smaller, quite a bit smaller, and make that leg opening tighter there, as well as the waist. So that's what that does. So I'm going to finish the other side, and I'll come back and show you these finished. All right, so this is my gold weave pattern again with the snaps, and so here I'm going to snap it on the loosest setting. See, you get a little bit of a space right here that makes it larger than my side snapping would be. Okay, because the side snapping would be over here, snaps that would cross with that and make it that tight, where this gives a little bit of an opening. Let me look and see how much that actually is. So if I compare it on here, it's about almost an inch. So it gives you almost an inch more. And then this is the snapped up to the smallest setting. So thanks for joining me, and please subscribe for more sewing videos. I appreciate you joining me for this one.